Hi, the video you're about to watch is part of a course that I'm currently filming called the Triangle Method. These weeks I've been really busy filming and editing the course, but I thought now was maybe a nice moment to share some with you. I'll tell you more about the course at the end of the video. Sign up to the mailing list to be updated when it launches, and without further ado, let's get right into it. Now we come to one of my favorite things, modular synthesizers. You see, every synth that we've talked about so far has an architecture where a signal flows in a certain way. For example, the oscillator goes into the filter, goes into the amplifier, and there's some envelopes and all is good in the world. But some magic things happen when you split those functions up and you take an oscillator and it's a standalone unit. And then there's a filter and that's also a standalone unit. And you can choose to connect one to the other, but you don't have to. There's other places it can go, other ways to be creative with the signal flow. It's a wild acoustic wonderland that's almost infinite in its exploration capacities. In the digital world, there's a software called VCV Rack, which can emulate it digitally if you want to mess around there. But let me show you in hardware just the basic building blocks. Okay, so from scratch, we're going to build our first modular synthesizer together. Over here is a full case, and this case is empty. It's just got a lot of space where we can add in modules. That's what they're called. Individual parts of the synthesizer are called modules. They all have little cables for power that we're going to plug in the back. And then we're going to connect them all together using these cables here. These cables are going to make sure that the different modules can talk to each other. If you remember the architecture of a subtractive synthesizer, you'll remember that the sound really starts with an oscillator. And this is an oscillator module. This thing, all it does is oscillate. It doesn't do anything else. So I'm going to put this into our rack as the first module, and let's see what sound comes out. Now we're going to listen to the sound that comes out through this cable. Hop. And there we go, we have sound. Hallelujah. And this big frequency button here at the top changes the frequency of the sound. And this affects the shape. So here it's almost like a sine wave, a little bit like a triangle wave maybe. And here it's a much sharper sawtooth-like wave. But as you remember in the subtractive synthesis series, this is a sound that's too big. We're going to have to subtract from it. And especially the volume. It's just constantly playing. How do we turn this thing down? We're going to need a VCA for that. A volume control. This thing. This is a VCA, a quad VCA. Basically just means there's 4 VCAs in one. And what is it? It's just a volume control. Just this top button is nothing but a volume control. Let's put this in our patch. So now instead of taking the sound from here, let's take it from here instead and use another cable to connect that into there. And what are we going to notice? That this volume control can finally make this thing shut the heck up. Ah, that's relieving, right? Cool. So I could play a melody. If I was really, really dedicated, I could almost play a melody like... Now let's all agree that's not very musical. So we're going to have to introduce some other way of controlling this. So let me introduce the next player. This fellow. What this fellow can do is it has on the top here little connections that can connect very well with our Eurorack. In particular, pitch and gate. We're going to be using this to send pitch and gate signals to our synthesizer. I'll explain what that means now. What we really want is for the pitches of these keys to control the pitch of this oscillator. So let's hook that up. Pitch to pitch. Whoa. Now, heck yeah. Notice that this is monophonic. There's only one oscillator. It can't play multiple pitches. But that makes sense, right? Cool. Now how about, what if this thing could control when this thing becomes loud or quiet? Huh? If it could control the volume of this thing. Let's hook that up as well. We hook that up to CV, turn it down, and look at this. Only when I press a button on the keyboard does that thing become loud. Incredible. We've got ourselves a little synthesizer. How cool is that? Now let's develop this further with a filter in between. Now we've added in a filter. So what would we do with that filter? Well, we would send the sound from the oscillator into the filter before it goes into the amplifier. That would look something like this. So this is the bright sound. And if we tweak the filter, it gets darker. Let's play a darker note. Now I'm getting tired of playing this keyboard here in this super unergonomic position. So what I want to do is I want to instead use a step sequencer that can send me gate and pitches. That's much more electronic music focused. I'm going to be adding in this step sequencer. It's going to have a little sequence that goes from left to right, and we can just set pitches like this. So you can see the sequence running across there. So let's take the pitch information and let's take the gates. Hell yeah. Now we're noticing that only very, very short sounds are coming out because our volume is controlled by a gate, which is just a binary on-off switch. On or off, right? And so what we want is, in fact, we want an envelope to control that. So let's add in an envelope. Here's an envelope. It is an ADSR envelope. Attack, decay, sustain, and release. Just like from our subtract to synthesis videos. So what are we going to do? We're going to take that gate and we're going to trigger the envelope. And then the output of the envelope, we're going to put that into that amplifier. Oh, here we go. Short attack and the decay. Nice and short, or nice and long. Remember that on your filter, you could, for example, turn up the resonance. And that's going to always make the filter freak out a bit. In this case, it's going to add this kind of grunginess on top of it. In fact, I would love if this envelope also controlled the frequency of the filter. Let's see if we can make that happen. This little star here will let me plug in a voltage on one side and split it out in two other sides. So one goes to the volume and the other one goes there. And now we're getting a kind of an acid synthesizer feeling. That's exciting. Maybe let's add it a glide. And remember our triangle method. We've got a sequencing method going into a sound source, which is this modular synthesis unit, a voice we call it in modular synthesizers. And then maybe some effects could be good. Maybe let's add that. Here's a little delay and reverb unit. So let's take our output from that, put our sound into it. What a beautiful little acid voice. Wouldn't it be nice if we had a kick drum to add to this? The beauty of modular synthesis is that if you can dream it up, you can probably make it happen. Here's a unit that can make a kick drum, and here's a unit that can add this sound and the kick drum together. So this little sequencer is now going to tell my kick drum when to hit. The kick drum will go into this little mixing unit. See, now we can just hear the kick drum. And now let's add our synthesizer back in. Now we're making music. The pattern that's playing on our sequencer is also a slight polymeter, so it's only going 7 steps. Here now it's just a simple 8 steps. Oh, that's fun. You find these sweet spots that you might never have found in software simply because you're paying so much more attention to each millimeter of the knob. So yeah, after that, when you look at a system that's designed like this, where I've really set it up for live performance, you can see that it can get very complex very fast, and there's an almost infinite number of modules to research and to test out. So it's a very, very deep rabbit hole, but also a very, very fun rabbit hole. It really forces you to ask the question, what do you really want to do? Like, what are your processes exactly? It's a road to regret to just buy loads of Eurorack with no ideas. But if you do think deeply about each individual element, the result can be very satisfying. Even if it's a very simple monophonic acid synthesizer like this, I thought that sounded really, really beautiful. And there is just a magic to finding the right settings on the buttons and then just feeling the millimeters as they change. Something beautiful to that. You might even say that the whole triangle method, as I'm devising it, is kind of a way of approaching music making in general, but with the mentality of modular synthesizers. So setting yourself up with the sequencer into the sound source, into the effects, and then finding the sweet spots. For me, that's very much a modular synthesizer workflow, and that's what I'm trying to transmit through this course. Now, enough theory, let's put the triangle method into practice. Hi, this is Editing Oscar again. In the actual course, this video will go longer because we'll see an actual practical implementation of modular synthesizers using the triangle method workflow. But basically the whole course is a way of deepening and fleshing out the idea that the triangle method is a way to generate infinite musical ideas and to never get stuck. At the heart of the course is the concept of generating material, a phrase that we borrow from dance choreography, where dance choreographers will find ways and methodologies for generating options for themselves, so that then in the editing phase they can choose from very good existing options. And we want to transpose that idea and apply it in music. So we want to give you a methodology that's very, very simple, that allows you to explore very specific workflows in a very specific way, but that you can then trust that there's an abundance of musical ideas that you will be able to generate by yourself, that will sound like you, that will approach your artistic identity and your taste closer and closer. And with this method, we simplify our decision making so that we can stay trying to compose music with our feelings, not so much with our intellect. Keep the intellectual part really simple with a very well-defined method, so that then we can find all the sweet spots in the music and capture those sweet spots in audio, and once they're captured, use them to compose. It's now August 2025. If all goes well, the course should be out in September. So like I said at the beginning, sign up for the mailing list if you want to be notified, or go check the Underdog website because it might already be out by the time you're watching this. Be sure to like the video and subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in me releasing a little bit more of the content of the course so that you can see if it's something for you, or just say something nice to me. And until next time, stay producing, be good to each other, and take care. Bye-bye.